So if you guys have seen the house tour, then you already know that we have a loft upstairs, which is currently being unused. You know, that was supposed to be a place where we can kick back and watch movies, but it's become a bit redundant since we could do the same thing downstairs in the great room or even in our master bedroom. So I wanted to repurpose the loft area. So I've decided to build an entertainment setup up in the loft with my HD PC and my PlayStation 5 for the games where I want to play on the big screen. I just want to feel more immersed into the story-driven games, something I don't necessarily get playing on my setup downstairs. Now before we get into the good stuff and start building the actual setup, I'm gonna start the video by going over the centerpiece of it all, the new LG QNED Mini LED TV, because without it, the setup doesn't actually exist. I've had this mounted against the wall for about a week now, and here is my experience with it. I do want to say that LG has sent over the TV and sponsored this video, but they have no influence on what I'm about to say, and there'll be no edit requests from them other than for corrections if needed. Having owned several LG TVs myself, this review is coming from someone who is a huge fan of OLED panels. So there'll be some comparisons in the video since we're looking at a QNED TV instead. So to start off, the biggest difference between OLED and QNED is the independent dimming control. While QNED TVs have plenty of dimming zones, they still use dimmable LEDs, whereas OLED TVs can produce a wider array of colors or perfect blacks. This means OLED will still always give you the best blacks since each individual pixel can be switched off. You can see exactly what I'm talking about by looking at the same video clip. With that said, the color reproduction on the QNED Mini LED TV is still exceptional when compared to other LED TVs. Using quantum dot nanocell color technology, you get improved color reproduction with richer and more accurate colors. Now, one thing I do love about the LG QNED TV over my OLED is the anti-reflective coating that they use. This is very important to me since the TV is mounted in a very bright area with a ton of windows nearby, so naturally there are gonna be a lot of reflections, but they are not as noticeable compared to the mirror-like reflection you get on an OLED TV. I've also noticed that the LG QNED TV has more brighter colors than my OLED, but the viewing angles are slightly worse. You can see a shift in colors the more you look at it from an angle. I mean, it's not really a huge deal and doesn't impact my experience in any way since I sit directly in front of it. But if you have a bunch of people in the living room and they're all kind of scattered around, then this can impact their viewing experience. Like most other high-end LG TVs, I'm pleased to find out that the QNED TV also comes with Dolby Vision IQ and Dolby Atmos, which are both really nice features that enhance my experience. Filmmaker Mode is also a pretty cool feature that comes standard with the LG QNED. This basically turns off motion smoothing while preserving the original aspect ratios, colors, and frame rates. It essentially delivers the director's original vision, so you experience the film the way they intended. With Dolby Vision IQ, the TV will automatically change the display settings based on lighting conditions in the room. And since my loft is very bright with a bunch of windows, the built-in software will give me the best picture possible with vibrant colors and deeper blacks. Dolby Atmos, on the other hand, creates a multi-dimensional experience with more depth, clarity, and details than ever before. Basically, if I'm watching something and sound appears to be coming from the top left corner in the content itself, then the audio from the speakers will have better spatial accuracy instead of being fixated to the left speaker. This is especially important when playing FPS games, where the sound from your opponents determines the outcome of the match. Speaking of gaming, the QNED TV has a fairly low input lag of 6.2 milliseconds compared to 5.2 milliseconds from my LG OLED. This is much faster than a lot of non-gaming monitors out there and makes for an excellent gaming TV. I was actually able to play Warzone comfortably without feeling like I was at a disadvantage. Of course, it's not going to compete with the actual gaming monitors out there with the faster response times and high refresh rates, but for a TV, I was very impressed. Especially since it supports HDMI 2.1 for 4K at 120 Hz. So if you own a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, you'll be able to take advantage of the super high refresh rates. On top of that, it features AMD FreeSync Premium. This is great for anyone hooking up a PC to the QNED TV, as it does reduce stuttering and tearing for a clearer and smoother gameplay. I love that LG makes it easy to control all your game settings through the Game Optimizer menu. In here you can switch between the different game modes depending on the type of game you're playing. For example, in FPS mode, the TV makes sure you're taking advantage of the highest FPS that your system supports while adjusting the color profile to enhance your gaming experience. The Alpha 7 Gen 4 AI processor not only adjusts the picture and sound automatically, but it also upscales your content to 4K. At the end of the day, QNED isn't any better or worse than OLED. It really just comes down to your preference. Each has their own pros and cons. For my use case, the LG QNED TV makes the most sense for my Loft gaming setup as the colors are more brighter and it has an anti-reflecting coating with great sounding speakers. Now, if I were to build this in a darker room with no windows, then I would no doubt go with an LG OLED. If you guys want to check out the TV, I'll drop a link to it down below. So after hooking up the TV to the wall, it was time to start building the entertainment setup. The first thing I had to do was install a floating stand to store my HDPC and my PS5. So I went online and looked around for a floating shelf that not only looked really cool, but also offered the space I needed for both of my systems. A week later, the TV stand arrived and it was time to get to work. I called my buddy Roman for some help since I couldn't do this myself due to the size and weight of the floating stand. So with his help, we took down the TV. I did add some RGB strips behind it for a little bit of accent lighting, and we managed to successfully mount the shelf on the wall. Well, after it fell down and almost cracked Roman's skull in half. But he's completely fine. It was a minor bruise, and we got the shelf hooked up on the wall, perfectly centered in the middle. Cable management is very important to me, so I had to make sure to take the necessary actions to hide all the wires from both the systems and the 3 cables that came with the desk for the accent lighting. Luckily, drilling a few holes was just what I needed to successfully run the cable from the outlet through the shelf and back into the right drawer where everything was plugged in beautifully. I also ordered these cable grommets so that I can cover the hole I made and just make it look nicer. I have my PS5 laying sideways in the center on top of the glass with my temporary HDPC in the middle, which will be replaced eventually with a custom water-cooled SFF build. In the left drawer, I keep my PS5 controller and my gaming headset, and so far I would say it's looking really nice, but I'm not really happy with the way it's looking. It feels like it's missing something. It's missing a really cool backdrop. So I went on Amazon and looked around and found these really cool 3D art panels, but I went with the color white so that the RGB lighting behind the TV reflects off of them a lot better. These panels are about 20 inches on all 4 sides and they don't exactly fit the length of the TV perfectly. So I had to modify them so they can actually be centered with the TV. A quick tip I can give anyone working with these panels is always start in the center and move outwards if you want to stick to a symmetrical design. This way you can cut just however much you need from each side to make sure it's all balanced. Now after cutting them to the correct sizes, it was time to stick them on the wall using this clear double-sided tape. See, now it's looking like a real entertainment setup, but there was still one small thing that was bothering me. The white power strip cable was sticking out too much. So I ended up replacing it with a black one so it blends in a lot better. Now you might be thinking, Ed, how do you actually game on the PC that far away? Well, it's simple with wireless peripherals. I picked up a lapboard with a wireless keyboard and mouse, and I'm able to game without any lag or delay from the back of the Loft. I was debating on picking up some nice surround sound speakers in the Loft, but I mean, the down-firing speakers on the QNED TV sounds incredible. It sounds so much better than my LG OLED, so I just decided to stick with them. And besides, I do have my gaming headset that I switch to constantly. All in all, I am absolutely in love with my new entertainment setup at the Loft. I'll drop a link to everything I talked about, including the TV and the peripherals down below if you guys want to check it out. I might do some upgrades later down the line, so if this type of content is interesting for you guys, let me know by tossing a like before you head out. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.